We have a rogue squirrel crawling climbing the Tin Man water tower this afternoon.
It's way up there.
Wow. What is that? A squirrel climbing Tin Man. Oh. Yeah.
It's the most Oregon thing that's ever happened.
Exactly.
I don't know. They had ducks going in one of the.
There was
gutters
traffic
one time.
stopped. We were
awesome.
all looking out. Yeah.
We have ducks also in the aeration basins at the wastewater treatment plant
Yeah.
here.
Kicking their legs around.
They love it there.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Turn up the water. Lots
Well,
of
and
good
it's a
food.
nice temperature, I'm sure. Very bubbly. It's probably like a hot tub for it. Just a little gross.
Oh goodness.
I've got 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock it is. Are you ready over there?
Yep.
Good deal. Let's call this to order, 5 o'clock. How about roll call?
Present.
Jameson,
Yes.
Van Campen,
Yes.
Newton,
Yes.
Frisch,
Yes.
Markeller,
Present.
and Stitch.
Here.
Thank you very much. Item 3, approval of the December 14th, 2021 meeting minutes. Any comments on the meeting minutes? Do we have an action to approve them?
So moved.
Second?
Van Campen and Jameson.
Oh,
Did you get that?
Thank you.
Good, thank you for the clarification. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. So moved. Public appearances. This is an opportunity for the community to talk to the park board. We allow the opportunity to bring any topics up to the park board. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything on the agenda. It can be any other topics. We do allow ourselves to have the right to limit the amount of time if so need be, but give you the opportunity to talk. Is there anybody that would like to present to? Come on forward. If you could state your name and your address, that would be greatly appreciated.
Hi, my name is Amy Reeder, and I'm at 558 South Perry Parkway.
Thank you.
And I am coming, return visitor, to speak about the dog park, the John Blanchard Dog Park. When I was here in December, a man with a cane was here and asking for a handrail. And he still has trouble getting into the dog park. And I've noticed that there are actually two other people who cannot access it because of lack of a handrail. This gentleman his name is Pete, he's actually offered to pay for the materials, and another dog park attendee has offered to put in the time and effort. And then I went on the Americans with Disabilities Act and looked at what parameters are required for public playgrounds. And so I'm hoping that someone here would be a sympathetic ear to help me try to get this to happen. Additionally, I did send Jeff Rao a list of items that other dog park patrons had wanted, and I do understand that there are, that cost is limiting factors. I had mentioned lighting at the park, and I was maybe needing to clarify that. The street lights that service that area of Park Street actually end before you come across the park. And so basically I'm asking if there's a way for the public streetlights to just be continued on. And then we had asked if there's a way to get a water spigot, and I noticed that there is at least a fire hydrant line in near proximity. So there have been a number of questions about what can be done as far as the land being so sodden. Tom, when he was here in December, he mentioned possibly, planting some trees along the west edge of the fence and that maybe willows would work well, because that would suck up a lot of water. I've also asked about some way for there to be some kind of windbreak. Again, the sodden area, I understand. But I'm also familiar with being able to sink pillions for footings. So I have just enough knowledge to be dangerous, but I am very much willing to put in the time and effort to figure out what regulations or what can be done to help improve the dog park. I understand that the tire swing is a dead issue. That's fine. I'll get over it. But if there's other guidance that the park board could provide, I am willing to act on it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate joining the park board. Anybody else would like to have community comments? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item 5, reports of the village officers. Do we have any report this evening? No? Okay, moving on to 6, communication and miscellaneous business items. Item A, request for placement of a memorial bench in Keller Alpine Meadows Park honoring Diane and Zach Nelson, submitted by Amy Shue. That was in the packet, and information in there regards to the background, as well as some images about what she was considering. Is there any other thoughts, Jeff?
No, we have these occasionally, and especially when they're in the parks, we bring them to your attention just for approval of these, and I've noted 3 locations that I think would be very nice. Probably those first, looking here, probably either this location or this location, I think would be really nice. It's already a cutout area, but we would work with Amy, or is that you, Amy? Okay, good. There are 2 Amy's here tonight, that's what got me confused. And just work with you on what location would be preferable for you and the group you're working with and stuff, so.
Any comments from the park board about this request?
One thing I couldn't tell, thanks, Mark. Where is this particular retention pond located, Jeff?
Yeah, this is Jefferson Street right
Oh,
here.
okay.
And this is that little footbridge right there.
Yeah,
So as you go out, it's on
Okay.
on your right.
So we're far removed for any potential library site as far as that.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yeah, this is one we did, about 2 years ago. You can see right here, a nice concrete pad.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
People tend to then place memorial flowers periodically at time and stuff like that, but they usually take very good care of the areas.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? It's a beautiful location overall, because you'd be either facing the trail as it's coming across or looking onto the nature. So I think it's an awesome opportunity. Thank you very much for bringing that forward and putting a park board. Do we have an action I'd like to make to submit towards village board?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion in regards to the request for a bench? Hearing none. Call for approval. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? So moved. Thank you very much. Appreciate you bringing that towards the park
Amy, you'll
board. That's
be,
awesome.
have you ordered it yet, or?
I have not.
Okay, so when you order it, if you have any questions, contact my office. Let me know on schedule and everything like that, and you'll have it delivered to the Public Works garage, and I can give you that address.
Okay.
It's just, well, if you're writing 388 Park Street, but otherwise I can give it to you in an email.
I'll be in touch.
Yeah, yeah, and then we'll work with you on this spring and getting it installed.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
I'd like to take kudos to the staff for helping out putting the concrete and doing that type of support as well. That's awesome. So
Agreed, it's beautiful, the one that's there is beautiful.
awesome, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amy.
The item B, 6B, update on the 2022 park reservation process. There was some information in the packet as well.
you want me
Lisa's
to-
looking at Martin, and Martin. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay.
Go for it, yeah.
It's your memo, but no, thanks for
I
filling
was
in that.
ready to talk.
So, and this is sort of a year of transition as Deb from Bossingham from the school district has left and moved on to a new role in Verona. She obviously filled in and did a lot for us to help out with the reservation system. So we are anticipating hiring sort of a recreation coordinator position, which we'll be discussing later on the agenda. But until that person is on board and trained, and we've had time to kind of do a training and handoff from the school district. Amy Miller's office, the community ed and rec, and Alex Marks in her office have been really helpful in stepping up and helping us get through the reservations for this year. I know in the past, it's actually, I think we looked back, it had been since 2018 that we had a lot of the sports organizations come and sort of present their requests for parks, and then staff would take it back and try to coordinate, make sure people were using the same park on the same day and everything. But I think in previous years, or more recently, I guess, the organizations had just been coming in when there were issues that had come up. So we as staff met and just talked about what's the most efficient way to make use of everyone's time, have everyone's requests kind of consolidated. And Deb had been using a Google Sheet where she's got all of the organizations and also groups like the Chamber, the library, the Senior Center, other groups that hold events in the parks on an annual basis, and then all of the facilities and fields, shelters, things like that on kind of the other axis. So that's been shared now with the organizations. They're filling out their requests, and they have, I think, until the 14th is coming Monday to put in their requests. Then Alex will try his best to make sure judiciously that everyone gets their requests. Obviously, we're going to have the majority of JC Park unavailable after the end of March when that construction starts, and we'll talk about that here as well. But hopefully that process works, and then March 1st we'll be able to open up to the public for reservations for graduation parties and birthday parties and things like that. Are there any questions?
So I thought, were we gonna talk about charging fees this year, or is that put on the back burner? Or-
Yeah, I think we're, depending on how this recreation coordinator role is formed, I think we're hoping that that person will sort of work with us to help come up with a system and then implement that. But that'll be something probably we'll be working on with you all, I imagine, later in the year, and then we can incorporate that into our fee schedule for 2023. I think that was the thought on the fees, just to make sure that that cost isn't a burden to groups, but also to recoup a little bit of the maintenance and staff costs that it takes to coordinate all of this.
And also to make it equal across the board too, because when there was some fee-based, there was exceptions. Essentially, everyone got exceptions. So we need to take a look at that. And I think it was worthwhile, even though I was objecting. I wanted to move it forward, but to have somebody on board, because as you looked at the job description, there's a lot of community input that relates to it. So it'd be really valuable for that individual to embrace that and have a plan to submit. So
we used to charge fees for?
there used to be some basis, there was, but then community organizations had exceptions. They didn't have to pay any, so there was more exceptions than there were actual payments.
How long ago was that?
I don't recall the time frame of that
A couple
myself.
years ago, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think also the system that Deb used, they just changed from, I think it was called Jim Dandy was the software, and now it's ActiveNet. So I think there was a system where it was, I forgot, like $20 an hour or something for your reservation. So you'd ask for like a credit card, but Deb would automatically refund that as soon as she'd make the reservation. That was just to kind of prevent people from reserving the whole day. And it was also just the way that the system was set up. But yeah, I think there's, with this new position and coordinating with the school district, there's a lot of room for improvement and trying to make sure too that we're not overlapping services moving forward, so it's really clear.
If I understood, it was also to prepare the community to realize there is a potential fee for this, even though they're not going to be, have to pay that. So the fee was demonstrated in the software, so you could see that, but then it was cleared out of it, so that didn't necessarily play into it. And that tool, that software was used for the school district as well, for reserving the facilities. And so that's why the school's been awesome to really carry it for the village, because they used it for reserving all of their spaces, which include interior and exterior. So they continued on and took care of all the village park locations as
Yeah.
well, which got the all the sports organizations involved in it too.
Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense to use the same software system though, because we're taxing the same group of people more or less. So rather than pay for two separate systems and maintaining that, it makes sense to have it all together. But again, as the staff person comes on board, probably in the second half of 22 here, we'll probably just delineate the village
Yeah.
facilities as part of their role.
And as we've started to construct newer, nicer facilities, I think we feel a little better about charging for certain things. I think in the past, sometimes it's been, how do we charge someone for that?
You gotta be proud, Jeff. Come on, we should be
Yeah.
proud of
We
our
should be
park.
proud. I know, but you know what I'm saying. Some of our facilities are a little dated and everything, so it's, now that we have the newer areas, and especially with J.C. Park, it'll become much more important.
Just a clarification, we are the only community in the area that does not charge. And some of the fees in Madison are quite high, but we compare, Judy's done a lot of work in regards to that, comparing Stoughton, Fitchburg, and other areas. And some of them do offer some amenities more so, like restrooms. We don't have too many of the parks have restrooms, and so there's other downfalls. But there are still plenty parks, and there's people outside of the community that do use our parks in the reservation system. Any other comments? Judy?
I was just wondering, for J.C. Park, even though it's closed, would we be able to have Summerfest just for the fireworks to go over J.C. Park? For one night only?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in J.C. Park update.
I just have to sign the contract if we're gonna do it, that's all.
I mean, we'll be able to have a spot. I'm sure we
To
can
watch
carve a
them.
spot out for the fireworks and stuff, but yeah, I
It-
can't guarantee exactly where it'll be,
Great.
but
And they
I-
always work with us, so anyway.
yeah.
I saw your request in the Google Sheet today, so.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Phil, did you have something you were thinking about?
No.
Oh, I thought
Thank
you were
you.
gonna talk again.
No.
Excellent, thanks you, Elise, for bringing that update and carrying that update forward. Item 6C, update on the status of the 2022 J.C. Park redevelopment project. Does that go to you, Jeff?
So, yeah, it is out to bid, both the concession stand is bidding, starting tomorrow. The park has been out to bid, I think we opened bids on March 17th, February 17th for the overall project, and then the concession building on March 10th. We've had a lot of questions on as far as availability for the park for this year, and until we really have a contractor on board and they've given us a schedule of when they plan to mobilize to the site and start grading, we really don't know. So we're kind of saying, we are assuming it is not available for this year. The only one being Stotts, I believe. We were just looking at that. Stotts Field should remain open and usable, but everything else right now is got a big question mark on it. But for very special events, such as fireworks, which are near and dear to my heart too, Judy, what we'll probably do is during our kickoff, we will work with the contractor just to make sure that we can carve out a spot that would be safe for everybody, and, because, we won't have anything major other than just land disturbance at that point. So,
Yeah, and we don't have to have anybody over there, we just have.
Can I be right there? To make sure.
Yeah.
Special services.
Exactly, inspection services, yes. No, we'll work with you on that. I mean, I just can't guarantee exactly where. But
Otherwise, we can hold it up for 1 year.
No,
I mean, we could do that too.
no. Fireworks were great last year. It was great to have them back.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think everyone felt that way. It was a part of normalcy in the sky.
Any other comments regards to the J.C. Park
a question that came to my mind today, and I just couldn't recall it, Jeff, and that is, are there restroom facilities located, public restroom facilities in the concession stand?
Yes.
And-
Yes.
And just in the concession stand, or?
Yeah, that building has the full restroom,
Okay.
men, women, and family. And then we will still have and maintain the restroom building that is off of North Prairie Parkway
Yeah,
there.
okay, all right.
Yeah, so
Thank
that'll,
you for that.
yeah, that'll continue to be used, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Jeff, appreciate that. Moving on to item 7, unfinished business. There is none, I don't believe, so move on to item 8, new business. Potential discussions and potential actions. So item A on 8 is the job description for a community service coordinator. That was all included in the packet as well. Were you going to talk further?
Yes, I can go over this. So I think we've talked a little bit about this at the park board last year. But the village board budgeted for a new position that is going to be recreation focused. And we budgeted for it to start in the middle of the year. So we've been developing a job description, which is in your packet here, and we've been talking a little bit about internally what the nature of this position is going to look like. Because obviously we haven't had it before, and while we have recreation need for different tasks and things, like things that we were just talking about with reservations and fee schedules, we don't particularly have great demand for a lot of that stuff, at least right now. So we thought about what other things that this position could sort of fill in the gaps of what our existing staff structure looks like. And I think we kind of settled on sort of a community-oriented focus, and thus the title Community Services Coordinator. And so really the position has 2 functions as outlined in the summary of the job description, which is to facilitate communication, interaction, involvement, and exchange between the Village of Oregon and the Oregon community on a range of quality of life activities, functions, and services. Such community services include recreational, athletic, cultural, and educational programming and services, including community special events and other community development related activities, serve to build a stronger and more resilient community. And then also, because we think that at this time there is work available, but maybe not for a full-time position all year round, this position can also serve as a team member within the village's internal service departments, so providing administrative assistance to the administrator's office, clerk's office, finance department, planning and zoning, public works as needed. So then they would be kind of filling their time as needed and serving as a backup there. So what that looks like is, as we talked about, park reservations, obviously taking that back on, managing that, establishing fee schedules, being a liaison to the school district, to other community groups, building relationships with those groups, kind of being a sort of a community engagement specialist in a way, being able to be a resource for citizens on different services and programs in the community, whether that's through social media or traditional advertising means and things like that. And then just being an overall resource to the village and helping to coordinate some things that aren't necessarily anybody's focus right now, and just sort of filling in those gaps. And then obviously providing staff support to the park board, and then just administrative assistance where needed. So that's kind of what we sort of settled on for this position, and I think as it grows, I think we may take on more programs and services. I don't think we have any interest in duplicating what community ed does in the school district, so we would obviously want to work closely with them to kind of work in coordination with them and do things that aren't there, that they're not doing, that we could be doing. And so I think this position kind of starts us on that baseline, and from there we can continue to evaluate what we need. So if there's any questions or any thoughts or considerations that we should take into consideration, that's what we're here for.
Park Board, any comments, questions?
So Martin, this position isn't designed at this point to do anything, as you mentioned, community ed with all the different things they do.
Right.
This position isn't going to create summer programs, create things for kids. That's still staying more
Right.
into the school than it is coming here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things we thought about was, okay, we have this community ed department who does all these great things. They
Mhm.
have the structure, they do all these programs. Well, why is the village gonna start doing those things, duplicating those things, or even attempt to duplicate those things? But we still have functions in that realm that we need to take care of, and those functions are probably going to increase over time. And so how could we shape the position so that it fills that need, but also is more coordinating with the school rather than trying to duplicate what the school does? And so I think this is kind of what we settled on.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Looking at, thank you, Martin, looking specifically at the job description, there's just a couple thoughts I had. One of the page 2 provides staff support to village park board. Thought you might mention including the planned update to the recreation plan.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe you might, someone that has done that somewhere else might actually get my interest in.
Yeah. That's good.
The only other one is just kind of page 4 or 5, expected hours of work. It says that they'll be periodically be available in the evenings and weekends. Do you anticipate this person would be required to attend village board meetings, or?
I think maybe from time to time, as needed. I don't think it would be,
not,
I don't think it would be very frequent.
Yeah.
You know, I could foresee them being here at Park Board regularly. But, you know, if we have maybe a specific park project or recreation project going on, it might be helpful to have them at a
I
meeting.
just thought if it was, every board meeting or something.
No.
We probably should do something other than periodically.
No, and, yeah, right. And maybe I can retool
Well,
that or refine it, but,
yeah.
yeah, we.
That was my.
Yep, and we kind of, I think when we were first thinking about this position, we kind of were trying to figure out what kind of level of function it would have as far as, is it going to be like a department head, or is it like a supervisor, mid-level? Who does it kind of fall under? And after talking about it internally, I think we kind of talked about either it can report to me but not be at a department head level, or it may make sense to be under Elisa's supervision as well. And so I think we're going to kind of look at that and talk a little bit about that more. So yeah, that's kind of where we're putting the position into, so definitely not at a level where they would have to be at village board meetings, at least commonly.
Great, okay, thanks very much.
And could
That's
you
all I
just give an example of the difference between a recreational program that the village does versus the community?
That's a good question.
You mean this, what the
Because
school
I'm trying to
does?
figure out, yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be like planning the parks when there's a new
Yeah, I
development,
mean,
or
I think, you know,
JC?
so obviously we're familiar with what the school does, like, you know, art classes for kids in the evenings or something like that. I think we imagine the events and activities this person might be involved in would be helping set up things like summer concerts in the park, coordinating with the chamber on special events, the parade, summer fest, kind of all the facilities, equipment that needs to be set up. There's also a lot of time, staff time spent setting up rooms when we used to have the community room used more pre-COVID, and we'll have that space, a new space available in the new village hall for community room that'll have a kitchen, so there'll probably be a lot of showing people spaces and also setting things up, and that will probably fall into the fee structure too. Are we needing to bring in, you know, different kitchen equipment that needs to get cleaned, all that, time and maybe renting some of that equipment gets put into the fee schedule as well. So it would be more focused on village facilities, use of those, spaces, and then special events the village coordinates with, tree lighting, National Night Out, things like that. I think we're also thinking that they would have a little bit of a public information officer, PR type role, where maybe they could take some of the load off of our clerk's office and be the one posting about, make sure you're shoveling your sidewalks. It's the first snowfall of the year, or reminder that, Christmas tree pickup is coming, or this event is coming up about the new intersection stoplight, and just being a little bit more of that public face of the village, since all of our other departments have really defined roles and everybody's kind of maxed out. So hopefully this person, I think depending too on the type of applicants we'd get and their interests and their experience, this could kind of go a lot of different directions based on their strengths.
I have a question, how do you base the pay? How did you kind of look at that from the skill sets and what you were looking for?
And I still want to look at that. I think we budgeted 45,000 for this year, or as a salary for the position, but I want to look a little bit more at comparable positions, and we do have a pretty decent sized contingency that was set aside in this budget for this year, and so if we think that we need to up that a little bit, there's some opportunity to do that.
There's a
So
lot of
with the
pressure on there.
salary, is there like a maximum? Like, do you have like a maximum in like within the budget?
Yeah, we would have a maximum with the 45 this year, but we could take out from our contingency to up that a little bit. But yeah, the budget was based on a 45,000 a year salary.
But we're also going through a salary review this year that will identify all the positions in the village and be comparing those to other positions, if those are available in other communities.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So the board is working on basically a new compensation study and classification study for all village staff this year, comparing positions against our peers and making sure that we're keeping up with those peers. So this position would become part of that as well. So we may hire the position at a certain rate, but by the end of the year, we may have already reevaluated the position that it needs to be a little bit higher.
I also envision as we do charge for some of the park spaces, you could as complement with some other opportunities of other things that you could use in the parks themselves. And some of those could be sports activities, other things they could use along with the parks themselves. So see that as an opportunity that could actually enhance the parks. Also like to make a comment that I really appreciate in here having the diversity and equity and inclusion in that. I think it's really important to make sure we continue that, carry that onward. Any other comments regards to this job description?
I guess the only thing I would add is I thought I read the report to work, like Monday through Friday, normal business hours. But it sounds like that there could be potential for remote or hybrid work, and with a salary at 45, maybe a perk for a flexible hybrid schedule might help or encourage.
Yeah, that's a good note. We also, just with the evening and night and special events, we imagine this person will be flexing their time quite a bit, so it'll be a hourly position, so they'll still just be limited to 40 hours a week. But if there's a summer concert on a Tuesday, they might be leaving early on a Friday or something as well. So probably the flexibility, along with a lot of us are doing hybrid work schedules right now, so that's good to point out that we're open to that. But yeah, we're imagining this as kind of a more of an entry mid-level position with somebody with maybe a couple years experience, maybe a associate's degree or something. Again, kind of a wide array of options for background, whether it's in communications or parks, event planning. It could be, I think what we determined is somebody who's a people person, who's really outgoing, really works well independently. Those will be some of the key characteristics that we'll look for in interviewing.
Wonderful. Any other thoughts, comments? Thank you for bringing that forward. Appreciate that. Moving on to item 9, items for future meeting and future assignments. Does park board members have any in particular? Any thoughts in regards to the John Blanchard Dog Park? Is there some action we should take in that in particular? What guidance can we provide?
Do we want to discuss that, or we could add that?
We should add that for a future meeting, so I'm
Well,
just
you know, I
wondering.
think since you came in, we should at least air those out and see what's possible and what's not. What's feasible. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Incorporate that in the future.
Yeah.
Mark, I had one thing I forgot to mention
Yes.
earlier. Last year, yeah, the years are all blending together, COVID. We signed a lease, 1-year lease with Dan Bertler for 102 Alpine Parkway, which is the lot just north of Millard Dental. And he's expressed that he's open to renewing that lease
Okay.
this year, pending any, construction that would happen later. So we'll be working on revising that lease language, and then hopefully by the next park board meeting, we can bring that to you to approve, and then we'll send it to the village board, and that'll all get done before the
Was
snow
that lot
melts.
used for any sports?
That's my
Yeah,
question.
yeah, so it actually, go ahead.
They weren't even aware,
Used.
well, we had made them aware of it. They did not make their internal people aware of it last
Okay.
year.
Different
so
organizations. so.
We've been told they will use
Okay.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's one actually one on both sides.
Correct.
Ours and the
Yep.
Bertler parcel.
Yep, so we'll continue to make ours available, and that's on the list of available spaces, on that
Reservation.
Google sheet that Alex sent out, and
Right.
then once everything's squared away with Dan Bertler's lot, we'll put that on the sheet as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome, wonderful. I do want to apologize and not recognize Judy as joining onto the park board as an appointment from President Glitch, so welcome.
Thank you.
More like welcome back, Judy,
Welcome
thank you.
back.
Appreciate you joining on, so I won't embarrass you to tell us anything, but I think a long correlation with Chamber of Commerce, so welcome. I just wanted to make sure we recognize and thank you for that. Other than that, any other discussion points? Call for adjournment?
Actually, I have one thing.
Oh,
So it's just a question. I believe that us new members, isn't our term up, I think, April?
I haven't looked at those timeframe. I do believe that's correct.
Yeah, whoever, I don't have that in front of me, whoever's terms are up, but yes, if your term is up, it would be up in April. So, Randy Glitch, the president, he would make the appointments, which would be made at the end of April, and then the board.
I recall I'm up for it as well.
The
so
board would
my
be
term wouldn't
reseated
expire.
in May.
If I recall, when we reorganized it, they alternated the position for
Yeah.
each, so that it wasn't all at once, so
Right.
I think that's what past president,
Yeah,
Carpenter did.
we'll,
Appointed elder, or
I,
are you a senior?
You apply.
I'm a senior.
Oh, yeah.
But that is my question is, I am going to UW-Madison. So I don't know if I could still technically claim with, like, Oregon residency,
No, that's.
because my parents are still remaining in Oregon.
Well, I guess my question is that, well, how far down can we go down with this, Mark? Is it student member in terms of Oregon schools, student member, or?
I think it's in the
It's in
the
the-
park board bylaw. if you
Something
will.
they have to go
I think it's an Oregon, it's a student in the Oregon school
Yeah.
district, I believe.
I suspect.
But you may be able to apply just as a member at large,
Okay.
rather than a student member.
Okay.
yeah, so it does, it says, one member shall be a student enrolled in the Oregon School District.
Okay, so I could still apply as a member at large?
Right, so if we end up
Okay.
having any vacancies, or, I mean, it's up to President Glish on
Okay.
who he wants to appoint, you can certainly put in your application and you'll be in the mix.
Okay.
Or throw your last 3 months of school and come back again for another year.
There you go.
That's a
I'm not
novel idea.
suggesting that, Miller, but you do what you need to do.
Let's call for an adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed with the same sign? So moved. Thank you all. You
Dave,
guys
you
get
got
to
the
make your
5:39.
I took the over.